Hi everybody. We're just going to wait for a couple of minutes for everybody to join. We've got quite a large audience today for this webinar, so we're just going to give people a few more minutes to join the meeting, and then we'll get started. Folks, as I said a minute ago, we're just going to give people a few more minutes to join the call. We've got lots of people very interested in this webinar today, so we're just going to give people a couple more minutes and then we'll get started. So just bear with us a second. And I think we've still got one or two people joining as we speak. Like I said, there's a very large number of people interested in this call, so we'll just give everyone just a little bit longer start before we get started, but we won't be much longer now.
Awesome. Just test you can hear me, Rich.
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear,
Good.
Alex. Yep,
Awesome.
good stuff. Okay, well we've got 40 over 40 people on the call now. We're expecting quite a few more to join. I'm sure they'll join over the next minute or two, but it's being recorded for everybody, so I think we may as well get started. So um, first of all, thank you very much everybody for joining this call. Very excited to be doing this webinar today with Alex. So my name is Rich Bibby. I'm a technical advocate here at NetBox Labs, and we're joined by Alex Gittings. Say hello, Alex.
Hello.
There he is. Alex is a solutions architect with IP Fabric, and obviously we work very closely with IP Fabric these days, and we have a very exciting partnership, which is all about discovery. So we're going to be talking about automated network discovery in NetBox and NetBox Cloud with IP Fabric. So what we'll do is we're splitting this into two parts actually. So I'm going to introduce the first section. We'll keep that quite short because most people, obviously, we're assuming a lot of people know about NetBox and also IP Fabric. But what I want to do is just touch a little bit about who NetBox Labs are, what NetBox is if you're not familiar, and then just touch on something called a network automation reference architecture, which shows you where tools like NetBox and IP Fabric fit into an overall architecture that we see in modern network automation solutions. Then I'll hand over to Alex. He's going to introduce IP Fabric. Alex has developed the plugin for NetBox for IP Fabric, which is an amazing plugin now. It's had a few iterations, but the version that's out there now is fantastic. There's so much functionality in it. I'll leave Alex to talk all about that. He wrote the plugin himself, so there's nobody better to have on the call to talk about that than Alex. And then Alex is going to give us a demo as well of the plugin in action, so we'll get to see that. So I'll keep my slides brief. As I say, the most interesting stuff is Alex's. But for those of you that don't know who NetBox Labs are, we were founded in 2023, so we're just over a year old now, in New York. We are the commercial steward of the NetBox open source project. We have a world-class team that built and led, first of all, NS1. Some of you may be familiar with NS1. We span out of NS1, as I say, about a year ago. And the people that are involved in NetBox Labs as well also founded the NetBox project. I'm sure a lot of you who know NetBox will know Jeremy Stretch. Obviously, he's part of the team here at NetBox Labs. And we have world-class investors and customers also. This is a great quote we saw recently from Alex Ankers, who is he's an industry analyst, and this leads us on to really to the discussions around what is a network source of truth. So this is very current. This is the top network automation trends. Enterprises and organizations that leverage the benefits of centralizing their network information in a network source of truth this year will gain a clearer, more comprehensive view of their network. And there are all sorts of benefits associated with that. And we'll start to see some of those benefits of having your network data centralized in a network source of truth as we go through the webinar. So first of all, what is a network source of truth? Well, the network source of truth defines your intended state of the network. So this is very different from your actual state of the network. So tools like IP Fabric and other tools out there will actually tell you what the state of your live network is, or a snapshot of the network. But what NetBox is, or sorry, what a source of truth is the intended state of your network, and that allows you then to work out whether you've got a difference between what you're seeing in your intended state, which is in your source of truth, versus your actual state on the network. And then you can decide how you act on that information. So a network source of truth should act as a single consistent data set. So this gets away from typically where your network information is stored in spreadsheets and different tools, different legacy IPAM tools and things like that. And you're centralizing everything into a single repository. It does require a bit of a mental shift for network engineers away from describing the network in design documents and diagrams as they have been done traditionally. And the network source of truth becomes the authoritative reference for the network. And the data that's in the network source of truth drives network automation. And what the kind of data that we're talking about that you're interested in storing about a network and documenting are things like the inventory, your DSIM information, so your vendors, your manufacturers, the manufacturers of your devices, your device types, the physical hardware, the cabling and the connections between those devices, and the IPAM data, which is obviously your IP addressing information, VRFs, VLANs, and so on, and your device configurations and the network properties, and also things like circuits as well. You want to be able to track those in a source of truth. And this is where NetBox comes into play as your network source of truth. So with NetBox, you eliminate the spreadsheets, you eliminate all those data silos that you may have had, so separate sources of information for IPAM and DSIM data. Everything is consolidated into NetBox. And it allows you to accelerate things like network automation because it has an extensive REST API, GraphQL interface as well, and things like webhooks that basically make a NetBox the central piece of any network automation. It's hugely extensible with things like custom scripts and plugins, custom fields, and you can integrate it with other tools in your stack. We've just named a couple here like Ansible and ServiceNow, but obviously another key one we're going to talk about is IP Fabric. Perfect example of another way of, another tool that can be integrated with NetBox. NetBox, if you aren't familiar, it's powered by a massive open source community. So the GitHub stars there, we crept over 14,000, I think, about a month ago. Numbers like the 11,000 software commits just shows you how active the NetBox community is and how actively being developed NetBox is as a piece of software. There's a huge sort of momentum and speed of development that you can see from some of those stats. NetBox Cloud is the software as a service offering of NetBox from NetBox Labs. And this is just a quick introduction to the console, actually, the administration console. So if you were running, if you're a NetBox Labs customer and you're running instances of NetBox, this is how you administer them. And this is kind of like the screen. So you can see that we've got a couple of instances running here. You might have production instances, staging instances, and things like that, and you manage them all from within the NetBox Labs console. This allows you to go faster. So if you're not maintaining NetBox yourself on premise, you're letting us handle that for you with NetBox Cloud. It allows you to do things much, much faster, like you've got easy upgrades. For example, we take away all the pain for managing upgrades. It's super simple now. It used to be quite a painful, well, it is quite a painful process for people managing NetBox themselves on premise. We have great integrations. We're going to talk about one of those in a second. And we've also got event-driven features as well, like real-time automations with Cloud Event Stream, which we had a webinar about last week, actually. Brand new feature for NetBox Cloud, and allows you to take information from NetBox that's actually, when changes are made in NetBox, you subscribe to the stream of data that's coming out of it, which allows you to then sort of kick off other automations on the back of that. It allows you to go safely as well, because we have all the safety features that you would expect in an enterprise-grade piece of software. So things like a cloud firewall, we have all the SOC 2 compliance, we can manage secrets for you and things like that. So it's a very secure solution as well. And it allows you to go further because of the hundreds of plugins that allow you to extend NetBox's functionality. It's hugely extensible, as I mentioned. We've got things like device configurations can be rendered natively within NetBox now. Previously, you used to use another tool to do that, such as Ansible or Python, and it's highly extensible and customizable, the data model. So just to talk you through a little bit of a journey that we see some of our customers on these days when we're speaking to our customers, we see them at various stages of say maturity when it comes to network automation. Obviously, lots and lots of people just aren't doing any network automation at all, and they're coming to NetBox to document their networks primarily. So they're getting rid of all their spreadsheets, they're converging everything into a single source of truth into NetBox. They are perhaps doing some discovery, which we're going to talk about with Alex in a minute. He's going to show you how you do that with IP Fabric, and they're pulling that data into NetBox and they're consolidating it into it as a source of truth. They might not necessarily be doing any network automation at that point, but at least they are building those rock solid foundations that will allow them to progress and do that. So the next stage from documenting a network is to model it in NetBox, which really enforces the consistency of the data within NetBox. So you're making use of the strict data model within NetBox. And what this gives you really is the ability to then to automate against it as the next step. So we see people that are further down the road in their network automation journey. Everything starts with NetBox. So if they're implementing a change, it starts by updating the source of truth, which is NetBox. They're then generating their device configurations from the data that's in NetBox. And they're driving the automations, but what they're also doing is utilizing assurance tools like IP Fabric, which will allow them to view the data that they have in their source of truth, their intended state, and see how that's differing from their actual state of the network. And that's where IP Fabric comes into play. This is the modern network automation architecture diagram that I mentioned briefly. And again, this is based on discussions that we've had with lots of customers now. We've seen this pattern emerge. And we like to talk about this reference architecture. It gives people an easy to understand view of where NetBox fits in the center here as the source of truth, and everything then revolves around it. So if we look at the operations side of things at the bottom left corner, we've got tools such as ServiceNow, where you might make changes which would then be reflected in NetBox, for example, or you could have people working directly in the NetBox UI or interacting in it with other ways. But if there's a change to the intended state of the network in NetBox, then this could initiate your automation tools then to kick in and actually deploy that intended state to the devices. So what the automation tools do, things like Ansible, Dornier, and Pure Python, they query NetBox and say, hey, I need to, this job has been triggered. I need to pull information from you so I can deploy this configuration change to these switches in the data center that have a new VLAN that needs to be deployed. So they consult NetBox and say, give me the intended state of the of the network, so I can deploy it out to the network devices that live in the top right corner of the diagram. And then your observability tools on the top left, which is where IP Fabric fits in, are the tools that are actually discovering the network. They're discovering the actual state, sorry, of the network. They're observing the network and they're feeding that back into this loop. And what they're able to do then is report on to you what's the delta, or what's the difference between the intended state in the source of truth versus the actual state that they're seeing as part of the discovery piece. And then if you close that loop, then obviously you could have an automated process then that rectifies the difference, or deploys the correct configuration to devices if it's drifted, or maybe just makes people aware of it, alerts the operations team to say, hey, did you realize that these switches in this data center don't have this VLAN deployed and they should have? Do you want to do something about it? So that's where the IP Fabric tool fits into that overall picture alongside NetBox. Now, at this point, Alex, if you've got your slides ready, and if you want to share your deck, I will stop sharing. And if you want to take over with your deck, I'll hand over to you from this point.
I'm on mute. Hopefully you can see.
Yep.
Awesome. So yes, as Rich mentioned, we fit on the top left of this kind of reference architecture, and the idea is, and what we see a lot, as Rich mentioned, people that are moving on that journey towards network automation, the first thing they have to do is either dust off those old Visio diagrams or the Excel spreadsheets and make sure that they have data in the platforms that they need, such as NetBox, which means importing the data into the tools that are relevant. So how can we help? IP Fabric is a platform that allows users to be able to discover different parts of their environment, such as router switches, firewalls, etc., and whatnot. What we do is we discover these devices via CLI API, and the main solution is we're trying to be a network assurance platform. We're a network assurance platform that allows you to provide compliance on if your network is configured correctly, but also is it operating correctly. So not only configuration state, but operation state as well. If you've configured something to operate, for example, a BGP peer, is it receiving prefixes from its neighbor? It may be configured correctly, but is it operating fine? What we do is build a model, the network model, into a snapshot, so that you can have multiple snapshots of what that platform looks, of what your network looks like. And then we expose this over API or web UI so that you can consume the data and allow different users within your organization to see it. I'll just give you a quick show of what the platform looks like. Hopefully you can see, can you see that, Rich? Good, I can see a nod. Awesome. So I've done a discovery of a network here. This is the topology that's out the box generated. I can see OSPF, BGP links, whatever it may be, VXLAN, ACI, whatnot. We've got VXLAN down here, multicast at the top. And I can select and visualize different components or have tables like my devices, my part numbers, my OS versions, my interfaces, my interface descriptions, for example. One place to view all the vendors and all the different technologies within the environment. And we're trying to be as simple as possible about it. I'll be brief, but the technologies are kind of limitless in here. But I'm trying to give you an understanding of the discovery we do allows us to integrate quite closely with NetBox, because a lot of the information you need in NetBox as well. So once you have this now up-to-date documentation, most of our customers go, okay, we're on this automation journey. What's a tool that we can use? And most of them go towards NetBox. So we created this plugin for our customers to help them on this journey, and got quite a bit of experience with building plugins. So we built one. So I will go back to my presentation because it's quite good to understand the different concepts. So the plugin features, I'll talk about what it does. So we allow you to synchronize a brownfield network into a source of truth, into NetBox. So we do the discovery. We have the ability to choose what models we want to synchronize, and they're the models we currently support: sites, manufacturers, device types, roles, etc. Reconciliation. We allow you to, if you already have information in NetBox, reconcile that information with what we have discovered. And you can choose the reconciliation on different snapshots, different sites, and we will only update things that have changed. And the extra features is that we allow you to customize what is synced, how it's synced, how you transform the data, how applying logic to the transformation. We have the ability to query any table of IP fabric through NetBox without leaving NetBox. That's for the on-prem NetBox only. We don't have that yet for cloud, but it will be coming. And showing site diagrams via NetBox. So anyone's looked at the topology plugin, you'll get that kind of same topology that I've shown in IP fabric in NetBox kind of natively. So what I'll do is talk about the core concepts of the plugin. It's quite useful to understand the different things I'll be talking about. So I'll just cover that. So first is sources. Sources in our NetBox plugin define how NetBox talks to IP fabric. And there's two ways: there's cloud and on-prem. They have different models of how they talk to each other depending on the deployment model. In this instance, we're going to be demonstrating NetBox Cloud. What happens is we have an integration server in between our two platforms. It could be anything really, but we have one at the moment that will receive a webhook from NetBox and then start populating information automatically. And it does the same from IP Fabric. When a new snapshot is discovered, it'll push information to IP Fabric. So you can also have multiple IP Fabric instances. We have many customers with one NetBox instance because that's kind of the tenants and all that cool stuff. But they have multiple IP Fabric instances like MSPs and things like that. So we support for multiple IP Fabric instances to be supported. Ingestions, what are they? So they define what data to sync. What I've got a typo in there. I've put sync into the SYNC. Let's quickly fix it. Yes. Oh, let's see. Yeah, so define the site to sync, define the models to sync, and yeah, define the snapshot we want to sync. The next one is transform maps. What data do we want from IP Fabric to end up in NetBox? We define the field, and I'll go through this in a minute, and apply custom logic during the process. Whenever we integrate with different products, the model we have doesn't always fit. So this is what I showed you to read, just the kind of device table in IP Fabric. Now we call the host name a host name. It is a host name. We only support network devices, so it's definitely a host name. Whereas NetBox calls it a name. So we need some form of way to dynamically track that. So we need to be able to map those two fields together. So what we've done is created this. Oh, and another example is for an IP address, we have IP address and a network. We can see that there in the box. But in NetBox, when you define it, it's just the IP address with the slash notation on the end to define the mask. So we need to combine that. And how do we do that? First, We specify what transform map we apply a field to, specify the source field in IP Fabric and the destination field in NetBox. And then we can apply some custom Ginger logic to that kind of transformation process to be able to end up with that end result. And we have a default transform map out the box for the fields we can sync, but they can be as challenging as you'd like. And the next one is branches. When we make a change, we don't push it straight to production. We make like a branch, as in like a Git branch, using the stage changes functionality in NetBox. We apply all the changes. Then at the end, we'll be able to see what the differences are. So you'll be able to see what IP fabrics that says the network is how it's different to what NetBox represents. Okay, a demo. Ooh. Demo. Right. So I have NetBox Cloud here. This is what it looks like. It's actually a real NetBox Cloud demo. Rich set it up for me. So I'll load it here. Of NetBox Cloud, it's basically empty. The site, no sites, no nothing. When the plugin's installed, you'll see IP Fabric down the bottom left. There's a few things I've set up automatically. I mentioned there's an integration server in the middle that does some logic and pushing towards a NetBox. So to get that to kick off, I've set up some webhooks. These are the two webhooks on source and ingestion on the IP Fabric models. So first off, we need to create a source. How does NetBox communicate with IP Fabric? So I'll just do demo NetBox Cloud. It's not a local instance, it's a remote instance, it's a cloud instance. So we'll do that. And I'm just going to put a URL. This is for linking only. It doesn't do anything. It's to generate a link on the UI for me to be able to access. I'll show you that later. So I'll create. When it's creating, it's just sent a webhook to our integration server. We're using something called a windmill that's just received the webhook and has performed some jobs. And now what will happen is that windmill instance has pushed snapshots into NetBox. So we can see in the last snapshot of IP Fabric, we had a few sites, MPLS users, etc. And if we go to our IP Fabric instance, and go to our snapshot information, yes, we have the same information, MPLS sites, etc. And I can look at the devices. There's 49 devices part of that site, that snapshot. You can go in and go and see their interfaces and what they're configured as and all that jazz. So once that is created, I can then create an ingestion. So what information do we want to sync? So I'll create an ingestion, NetBox demo, select the source, select the snapshot I want to synchronize, and then here's where I can choose the different models to sync. By default, we just have a few ticked, but you can suggest type and select all, and I'm going to do VLANs, VRF, prefixes, IP address. I will do the lot. So then there's a few other things. You can schedule these ingestions, so it'll do it frequently, or you can do auto merge. And when you have a branch, you'll auto merge it. So there's no manual approval process to merge the data. And you can apply tags to all of the things created if you'd like. Then you can press create. Now what's happening in the background, NetBox has just told Windmill to go and collect all the information about those models from IP Fabric. So it's using our API. It's going to these tables using the API that we have to pull the information from the device. And it's going to push that into the snapshot in NetBox. So if I go to this snapshot now, you have a tab called raw data. And I've got 1,300 different sets of raw data. So these are all the sites, the raw data from here. So if I go to IP Fabric, go to sites, these are all the sites. You can see here that's a kind of request it's making. And this is the data that is brought back, this here. So now we have the raw data in this in sync. I can now press ad hoc ingestion and choose to push that towards the database. Because if we go to sites in NetBox, it's empty. So this is creating this branch. This branch will show you the process of taking that raw data and transforming it into NetBox kind of models. So that's just ticking away there, but I'll show you these transform maps. When you install the plugin, you'll get all these transform maps by default. So you can see there's one for device, and you can see the different host name, serial number, virtual chassis position, etc. And you can add more, and you can specify what fields from IP Fabric you would like to synchronize and where they would end up. So if you want something in comments, you could say, okay, I want the serial number to end up in comments. Create that, and that will do on that will be processed. And then you can go into more complex things like, as I showed earlier with the interfaces, with the IP addresses, being able to provide Ginger logic during the transformation process to be able to do cool stuff. For example, if I had host name, I could do some cool stuff like put a Ginger template in here. I could do object.hostname, and then I could do some cool Ginger filter in here and do upper or whatever it is, capitalize or lowercase, whatever it was, to transform the data as I push into NetBox. So I'll leave it blank. Hopefully that branch has finished. We go to that branch. Yeah, it's completed. So now it's saying we've done everything. All the logs are okay. At the top, it says changes. It's 1,143 changes that our plugin has thought that need to happen in NetBox. Note, there's nothing in NetBox that's changed. It's proposing the changes. We can go in and see, oh, it's created a site. Similar to the kind of change log UI that you would see in NetBox. That's what we have here. Manufacturer, etc. Interfaces, whatnot. If you're happy with that data, you can press merge. What will happen in the background is that it will then apply these changes to the production NetBox. Obviously, it's blank at the moment, so it's just adding everything in. So we'll just wait a few seconds for that to complete. So it's applied those 1,100 changes. And now if I go to the sites, now I have all my sites in here. MPLS core. Okay. I have 21 prefixes, 6 devices in this site. Okay, so this site, we've got all the host names. That's good. They're Juniper devices. Awesome. Our interfaces. I can see the interfaces have all been created. They've got descriptions. The MTU has been moved over. IP addresses have been added, etc. I know I told you earlier we added like a link to IP Fabric. It's nothing special. It is when it's local, but for NetBox Cloud only, it just affects this button on the top right. I can press IP Fabric on this device page, and it will open up like my URL to IP Fabric, so you can go straight to that device if you would like within the IP Fabric UI, and it's pre-filtered for that device, so we can see here that device. You can see the kind of same interfaces that you saw in NetBox just. That's what we synced over. Yes, we can see devices, the interfaces have been added, all that good stuff. I can go to like IPAM and I can look at my IP addresses in here. See them all, the different VRFs they've been added to master, global, default, the VRFs that have been created for the different information that we have, prefixes, utilization, all that good stuff that has been created. Based on what we have in IP Fabric, obviously IP Fabric knows about all the different subnets in your network, so that's how we've synchronized those. And finally, VLANs, we have a few in the network. Awesome. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to simulate a change in IP Fabric. It's pre-prepared, so I'm not going to actually configure any devices. I've got a snapshot I'm going to load. We have the concept of loading and unloading snapshots. So this is a snapshot I took, I think it was yesterday or earlier today. So I'm just going to load it for just time's sake. And what that will do is trigger a new push into NetBox once it's complete. So this in real life, this would be a discovery. It would look the same. You'd see it connecting to devices and providing logs. But we're just loading the data into IP Fabric now. When that's complete, we'll see Windmill will start a job. It's just started a job to push data into NetBox. So it's just running through those jobs. And if I go back to NetBox here, in my snapshots, I now have 3 snapshots. I've got the old one I had, the new one, and the last, which is just for us means the latest snapshot. If we look in there, we have again about 1,300 pieces of information that make up that data. So now if I go to the ingestion and run the ad hoc ingestion again, using the same last snapshot, etc., we're just simulating a new discovery by IP fabric, and we want to make sure that the network, how the network's changed over time, is reflected in NetBox. Some of our customers don't even use this functionality. They want to do a one-way push, and then start using NetBox to derive everything. But till you've got to the process of using NetBox to fully kind of provision devices, you would always need to kind of reconcile information until you're ready to switch over to a fully automated solution. See, there's a few comments. 16. Can we get the slideshow in the circle? Yes, I will put it on the screen now. If you want to do a quick screenshot.
Oh, we said, Alex, yeah, what we'll do is we'll share all the slides
Yeah.
out
Awesome.
afterwards, along with recordings of the webinar as well. So yeah, no worries there.
Good. Okay. So I'll go back to here. It's still processing. Now, when this finishes, we will see a few changes because the network has changed over time. But there's 2 changes in there that I'm looking for. I configured 2 interfaces with just to have a change of description, for example. And we should pick those up and show those changes in here. So it's 73 changes that have been picked up. There's a lot of device updates, and we'll show that because we're actually updating custom fields that have been attached to the device model, and that powers the links that get added. Our customers want to know, if we go here, our customers want to know when it was last synced. So instead of applying a tag to a device, we apply a custom field, and they can go straight to the latest sync and what source they synchronize that device from. But that information powers the button on the top right hand side, that IP fabric button. So based on the source that's configured, it can generate this button in the top right of the UI.
Alex,
Yep.
we've just had a couple of questions come into the chat. I
Yep.
thought maybe it might be interesting just to tackle these as we go along, actually.
Yep.
So one question from David there is how invasive is IP fabric? So I presume he's talking about, the impact on scanning,
Yep.
discovering the network and things like that. Anything you can say about that?
Yeah, so we find it's not very invasive at all. We use SSH, so it's just like a network engineer logging to, I don't know, 50 devices at the same time, essentially. It's not very invasive, and all we're doing is running show commands. We're quite open about what we run on the device, and we're running read-only commands only. So these are all the vendors we currently support. But if you select Cisco iOS, for example, if we connect to a Cisco iOS box, this is all the commands that we will run on that box. They're only show commands. We don't ever run anything. Actually, I'd tell a lie. We run wrong command that isn't a show command, and that's terminal length, because we want to make sure the output's standard. That's the only non-show command that we run. So it's not invasive at all. We typically only recommend users provide read-only access if it's got TACAX radius, whatever it is, to only allow the show commands. And yeah, we seem to do okay with that.
Does SNMP form part of the discovery process as well as the show commands? No, it's purely show commands.
Purely show commands. We discover neighborships. We discover other devices via network native protocols, neighborship protocols. So
right.
CDP,
So looking
LLDP,
at CDP neighbors, LLDP neighbors, and things.
Yeah, correct.
Got it.
Hopefully that helped people out.
Yeah, that definitely answers that question. We had another one from David as well, actually, which was when do you scan your network devices? So I presume we're talking about sort of scheduling then of snapshots.
So what we recommend is at least once a day, but it depends on operations on what a company is running. So, for example, typically, if you have a common maintenance window, we recommend before a maintenance window and then maybe after the maintenance window.
Yep,
Or if you've got automation in place, have automation kick those snapshots off. But typically, it is scheduled in our platform. You can schedule it for different times.
got it.
Um,
Yep.
and then we leave gaps in, we like to leave gaps in the schedules, and that's for troubleshooting purposes. If someone has an issue and they want to go, oh, I want a quick snapshot of this site to be able to document it in its broken state, we want to leave gaps in the schedules so that we can do a discovery, like ad hoc user discoveries, so people can go in and look and try and debug problems. There's many parts of the tool we haven't looked at for time purposes, but
Yeah.
like end-to-end path analysis, firewall analysis, policies, and all that good stuff.
That's it, because there is so much more
There is more. There is more.
to IP
Yes, a lot
Fabric
more.
as a platform. It's
Yeah.
not just discovering and getting
Yeah.
data into
Exactly.
NetBox. Yeah. So you could use it tactically and say, outside of your scheduled snapshots, you could say, okay, we're in a production issue now. We need to investigate the state of the network at this point.
Exactly.
You could then trigger a snapshot at that point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could even use it in the context of like synchronizing to NetBox. It's, oh, I've made a bunch of changes on this one site. Let's do a discovery of that one site now, not the whole network, just
Yeah.
this one site, and then choose just to sync that site to NetBox rather than
Right.
sync the whole network. You can choose to do that. So that's where you see more tactical discoveries coming into play.
Got it. Right. Okay. So you can be more granular on that and just look
Yes,
at a small chunk of the network and
correct.
analyze that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, correct.
Thank you.
Awesome. So we have these 73 changes, but in here, I've actually changed some interfaces. So now we can see IP Fabric picked up. And if I go to IP Fabric here, where are you? You're here. So if I go to inventory interfaces, if I just search by NetBox, I just changed two interfaces to have a description, NetBox IP Fabric demo. And we can see that the plugin has picked up those changes and is identifying them, the changes in NetBox. So if I go to the device now, what device was it? It was this one, switch to, oh, I was almost on the right one. Quick search, this one. So if we go here, there's nothing with NetBox in here. So it's proposing that we update that description. Now, what we can do is have the native tools that Rich was talking about, such as the config rendering. I have one in place actually. I don't know if it's for this device. Oh, it is. So I've got a config template that's actually rendering a config template using the Ginger. So we can see all the interfaces. ET3 doesn't have a description. And if I choose to then merge this, so let's merge it. So let's wait for that to merge into NetBox. So we've approved that change. If I refresh this page, that ET3 should have a description. Yeah, it now has a description. So automatically we've updated our template based on the data the NetBox has had using the config rendering capabilities of NetBox. Now your kind of brownfield network automation is kind of up to date. Now, as I said, some of our customers don't use this reconciliation. They might synchronize it once and then use that as a source of truth to automate down. But until you're up to that point of having that fully automated process, you kind of need to make sure you're reconciling until you're ready to do the diff. Some of our customers will always look at the diff, and then they know what's been changed manually on the devices. It's quite easy to see. Someone's changed this. They'll never merge it, but they'll see the diff,
Yeah,
just for UI purposes.
this is kind of that what we touched on, Alex, before in the discussion, wasn't it, around this assurance? So you're getting
Yes.
feedback here about, okay, something's changed in the network.
Hmm.
Now you can go down the road of automating, remediating that, or you
Correct.
can just be made aware of it so that yeah, network engineers who are you're looking at NetBox perhaps on a daily basis can see,
Hmm.
oh, there's a difference here now between
Yeah.
this expected configuration and the actual config. What do we
Yeah.
do?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. we have a bunch of compliance within our product to help out with that, whether it's different areas of compliance and intent checks for different areas of the network. But yes, it allows you to see those kind of differences within the product. So yeah, that's any questions on the NetBox plugin with IP Fabric, transform maps, capabilities. I mean, we're working on some cool stuff. For example, here I've got a local instance of NetBox. And if I have a site that's been synchronized, I can go and load the topology and call stuff like that straight into NetBox without having to leave the NetBox platform and bring those IP Fabric topologies in.
And that for now, then that's just on open source netboxes or an on-premise
Just
install of
on-prem at the
netbox. Yeah,
moment, yes, because it's
right.
making a connection straight to direct to IP Fabric. So I just need to work on the cloud solution where it will go to via, for example, Windmill that we're using in this instance.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
What's the support model for this feature? Assuming we have both NetBox and IP Fabric support for them, do we contact? How does? So we manage and maintain and look after the plugin as part of our solution. If it's a NetBox bug, obviously it'll be reported into the NetBox ecosystem. But if it's a bug with our plugin, we will maintain the plugin. It's our responsibility to maintain the plugin.
Yeah, absolutely.
Content.
And I think, yeah, just on that wider question, it's a great question there. Yeah, I mean, if you were a NetBox Cloud customer, obviously, then there is full 24/7 support available from NetBox. Obviously, if you're an IP Fabric customer as well,
Exactly.
you'll be
Yeah,
able to
you'd
get
get the
support there
same.
as well.
Yeah.
The way this is going to work from a partnership perspective is you can get a free trial of NetBox
Yeah.
Cloud. Alex
Let
has got
me
a slide with links to that as
yeah.
well, but there's also a free trial of IP Fabric, so you can discover is the right word, but you can find out how the tools work together
Yeah.
um, by looking at these links.
Yeah. So we've got might be worth putting those in chat if I can. One
Yeah.
second.
Yep.
So
So
here's
there's a
yeah,
solution overview page on the IP Fabric website that Alex is just going to get the link for now.
yeah.
There you go. That's in the chat. So you can
And
see an
the
overview
NetBox Cloud
of
trial.
how that works there. Yep. Yep. And the NetBox trial link there as well is free 14-day trial of NetBox Cloud. It's just a couple of steps: email address, specify which region you want your trial instance to be spun up in, and then a couple of clicks later, you have an instance of NetBox Cloud to play around with as well to try out. So,
Yeah.
do we have just wondering if we had any other questions there from people? I mean, if you want to come off mute and ask your question, that's also great, or if not, you can just pop them in the chat.
So just a moment ago, someone said, assuming we have both NetBox and IP Fabric and support to them, who do we contact and how does an issue get resolved if the sync isn't working?
I think we just covered that one.
Yeah, we just
Oh,
talked about that. Yeah, we obviously
sorry,
mentioned the fact that for NetBox Cloud customers, you can come to us for 24/7 support, and if you're an
Yeah.
IP Fabric customer, you obviously get support with them as well.
Yeah.
And it's a partnership. We obviously we'll work together to resolve any issues. But yeah, there's support with both tools.
Yeah. We've seen
excellent.
great
That's all I
adoption.
see.
Sorry?
I said, excellent. That's all the questions I see.
Yeah, I
Awesome.
can't see any others in the chat. So yeah, no, I think that's it. So. Alex, thank you very much for that. That was an awesome
No
presentation. It's
problem.
so great to see
So,
this plugin now in all its glory. Someone David is actually saying, "Is Alex in the NetBox chat?" And
yep,
yes,
of course.
you certainly he
Yeah.
certainly is.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can
I've
always
been
reach
using
out.
NetBox a very long time.
You have indeed. You have indeed. Okay, well, if there aren't any other questions, then I'll just say thank you very much to Alex for joining us. That was a great
Thank
presentation,
you
as I
very
say.
much.
Thank you, everybody for joining the webinar. I hope you found that informative. You will get copies of the slides in a follow-up email along with a recording. So thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.